wake your punk ass up.
Warrior class, zoo, stand up. Warrior class, zoo, rise up. Warrior class, zoo, speak up. Warrior class, zoo, show up. Warrior class, zoo, smoke 'em out. In this video, this is Crimson Cure. I've let you guys hear this female once before. Of course, I'm a fan of hers. I'm a proponent of hers. I'm a supporter of hers because she speaks the talk that I speak. And for the most part, it's very difficult for people, women, or other individuals that speak the speak that I speak specifically. So many other people use our talking points, my people group's talking points, but they have overtones or undertones and overtones and undertones, and the end result is still mass confusion. This particular woman speaks it the exact way I speak it. To me, this is the exact way it should be spoken. In this one, it is how black women create the resentment. So I'm going to let it play, and I'm going to give you my interpretation, my reaction to it as it is playing.
The internet is abuzz about it, and they're laughing, right? And more or less, they're laughing at whoever this woman is. They're laughing at her, okay? And they're kind of making a joke with Drake, like, ah, ha, ha, you know, you almost got caught up, you used the hot sauce, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. It's a big joke. And that, to me, is one of the biggest issues with it, is that everybody thinks it's funny that it's a man's life that was potentially just threatened by a hyena that couldn't give two cares about this man. It's funny, the potential of ruining a man. This is the society that we live in, where it's a funny thing. It's a joke potentially that a woman could threaten a man in this way by going behind his back and without his consent, potentially without his knowledge, force him into fatherhood and force her way into this man's life in such a way. We as the women have to be willing to speak out loudly about this type of situation. We get the same thing that the hyena get, ignored and uncovered.
See, the reason why my people group, or the people who think like I think, don't really like women too much. We like you because of your aesthetics. We like you because you do comfort us. But we don't like you because the so-called good woman, and the so-called bad women, your 304s, for the most part, they use the same tactics. The problem that we're having is the good women, the so-called good females, the good girls of our tribe, the good girls, the good women of our nation. They're not stopping these women. They're not saying, girl, that's wrong, don't do that. They're not saying, don't come around here and do that. Like a drug addict, we would tell our children, you know, well, you can't be in my house selling drugs or doing drugs because we, the fathers, the mothers, the parents, the brothers, the sisters, those that are not of that lifestyle did not want to get caught up by that lifestyle. And so what we do is we distance ourselves from those that are of that lifestyle. The so-called good women, the good girls in our tribe, in our nation, our family, are not banging against these women. These women are 304s. In the last 70 years, they have engineered and they have trained females to think like 304s. And I explained to you guys one time before, be very careful how you let people talk to you because people are always putting in the switch. I told you that I'm reading a book called Doublespeak by William Lutz, and it goes on in there and it tells a lot of stuff, and all it does is it uses euphemisms, synonyms, antonyms, homographs, and whatever to confuse you. So when you hear a word, you heard it, you just don't understand it. It is the same thing with cold, with the World War I, when they said the Indians helped them come up with a code to where the Germans the Germans and the Japanese didn't understand what it was, because the Germans and the Japanese had already did their recon to all the languages and all the Morse codes that we were using. Translators. What happened is they kept intercepting plans and missions based on a translator, somebody breaking the code. Well, it was an Indian tribe that they eventually ended up using in order to help win this World War I. because now the Japanese and the Germans did not have access to the plans or missions because they did not know of this so-called Indian language. Because they did not know of this so-called Indian language, it thwarted their plans. Well, I am saying the same thing to you guys about the system that we're in. Yes, it's a system of WSR, but your women and many of your members, males, are in cahoots with these people. If she's a 3-year-old whore and she's using her body language and tactics to get the things out of life she wants, the good women are supposed to tell her, no, you don't do that. You don't do that to a man. No, you don't do that to a son. No, you don't do that to a father. No, you don't do that to a brother. But the women aren't speaking up. The women aren't speaking up because the women themselves are using the exact same tactic.
We live in a society that rewards women like this. We live in a society that rewards women like this. We live in a society that rewards women like this. We as the women have to be willing to speak out loudly about this type of situation. We get the same thing that the hyena get, ignored and uncovered. Let me talk a little bit about this woman's thought process, because she's the one that put it out here. She's the one that put it out here. She's the one that put that business on a blog, okay? And she put that business on a blog, really thinking that by her coming out and saying that she was physically harmed by the fact that Drake placed hot sauce in a used condom to prevent her from doing exactly what she attempted to do, that somehow that would make him look bad. He would be seen as trifling because he did something that ultimately resulted in her and physical harm.
So I told you guys what people do is they try to pre-stage a conversation or pre-stage an event. Even though you may not be familiar with a lot of the wordplay, I'm telling you, yeah, entendres or double entendres, you got euphemisms, you got all kind of ways in which people double speak. She's going to pre-stage the event so that you, the listener, even if you're listening in your car at the regular news radio station, the viewer, if you're going to get up here and you're going to view it on internet, will end up ruling in her favor. She's garnishing sympathy or empathy now. Even though you don't know all of the details, the reason why it was important for her to get ahead of it, remember, any publicity is good publicity. So remember, they have to get out in front of this in order to skew the narrative. Remember, I also said it's not information put in a child's head that you can't get it out. It's not that. It's who gets there first. So whether you're a child or whether you're an adult, if somebody can get there first and put that information in your head first, for the most part, that's the base. Whether it be true or whether it be false, that's the base. The problem that we're having is we're not understanding their tactics. These are some, not all, some of the synonyms that are associated to the word pre-stage. You have early stage, post-stage, pre-catalyst, precursor, pre-press, pro-drug, downstage, front stage, rear stage, subsequent stage. In essence, it's how do you structure the sentence or storyline in such a way to where no matter how the story plays out, the movie plays out, the act plays out, the play plays out, you will end up in favor of the individual pre-staging it. I also told you guys these are examples, patterns. Examples of patterns. These are examples. These are patterns where I also showed you guys book Bootsy. So little Bootsy his friend comes out, one of his entourage members, one of his childhood friends, whatever it is, one of his members comes out and he gets on the internet and he basically is saying that little Bootsy kicked him out of a party that they were having over some weed. Apparently, little Bootsy got the weed and he got a lot of it. So what this particular guy did is he started taking his portion from it, but he wasn't supposed to take a portion from it. He was just supposed to take what he needed to smoke at that time. This individual started putting it in his pocket off of his stash. So Bootsy saw what was going on. They had words about it. He kicked him out. The guy gets on internet and basically starts to say, is he wrong or is he right? So he's garnishing sympathy, empathy before any of us know what's going on. Well, why would he do that? For the most part, it's none of our business what happens with little Bootsy and his entourage, his friends, and his family. It's none of our business. It only becomes our business once somebody makes it public. Somebody's either going to make it public because of something positive or somebody's going to make it public because of something negative. It's none of our business. It doesn't become our business until it becomes public. So then why did he make it go public? Well, in this era, you have jealousy and you have envy. And you have people that are facing whatever they're facing. I have sons, I have daughters, I have nieces, I have nephews, I have brothers, I have sisters. I don't know what fork in the road they're going to come to that's going to say, okay, I had enough. I don't know where their journey splits from mine. I don't know what they're doing in their personal lives. I don't know what's going on. But at some point, I am going to become a target of their ascension to power or ascension to economics. So what will happen is even though I technically didn't do anything wrong, individuals have their own motives, their own ulterior motives and concepts. They want something else out of the deal. They're only around me temporarily to get what they want out of life. And if they get caught up, if they get hemmed up, if they get set up, if they get trapped, if they get anything to where I have to become expendable or removed, those individuals will do it because they're already in a position to where they're close to me. They know my comings and goings. They know everything about me and they'll clip me. And when you all, the public, hear about what happened, what it will have a pre-stage, a precursor, and it will start out, nah, man, he said some foul things, man. He shouldn't have kicked me out of the house, man, over some weed. We've always shared weed. I've always put weed in my pocket. Nah, man, y'all don't know. You talking about something you don't know all the details. You need to it'll start out like that, and then we'll be looking like, yeah, you're right, because we weren't there. Yeah, you're right, because we don't know what was going on. Yeah, you're right. We only know what we know, and we're judging out of context. He would win. It's the same thing that this female is doing with Drake. She got it out first. Now you got some people, he shouldn't have done that. Well, if he didn't want to get nobody pregnant, you shouldn't have sex. Well, if you didn't, then you shouldn't put the condom in the trash. What you end up doing is people start excusing her behavior. And her behavior should not be excused. What she did is rape. What she did is grand theft larceny. What she did is foul, but she got ahead of it. And since she's got ahead of it and nobody's heard Drake speak, you're already thinking of possible ways in which it's wrong in her favor. This is what I'm telling you. The good women and the bad women are using the exact same tactics. I know there's a difference, but the entrance fee is the exact same price. The exit fee is different.
We as the women have to be willing to speak out loudly about this type of situation. We get the same thing that the hyena get, ignored and uncovered. The reason she thought it would look bad for him and not her, because trust and believe, if she thought that was going to be an L for her, she would have never said nothing, because women don't like to be embarrassed. Women don't like to admit to things that embarrass them. Women don't like to admit to things that make them look like the bad guy, that makes them look like an idiot. Women don't like to admit to stuff like that. So the very fact that she went to a blog voluntarily, nobody knew of this encounter except Drake and her, and maybe whoever else saw him interact with her. Okay? The blogs and the media outlets did not know about this. She went to tell that business. The very fact that she went to tell that business lets us know that she thought she was in the right. The very fact that she went to go and say it is what lets us know she thought she was in the right. She thought that people, other women specifically, would take her side. We as the women have to be willing to speak out loudly about this type of situation. We get the same thing that the hyena get, ignored and uncovered. Here's what we're not going to do. We are not going to talk about whether or not this individual woman was black or not. And the reason we're not going to focus on whether or not this individual woman who was dealing with Drake is black or not is because black women do this from all walks of life. You can find the chick in the hood doing the same thing to the doughboy because that's a come up for her, as you would find any of these little IG Insta thoughts doing to these so-called high earning, high value men. They do the same thing. Black women engage in this behavior. Same thing like when I was talking about Danny Lay and the baby.
Remember what I said. All females use the same tactics. The difference is they use it for different purposes, but the entrance fee is the same. The exit strategy is different because everybody wants a different result. But what I'm saying is we males, you're going to have to step away from the women because the good women are not banging on the bad women. Now, in the old day, in the old era, in the old centuries, it was Jezebels. It was harlots. Nobody's speaking that language anymore. Your 304s, your call girls, your corner walkers, your escorts. I've told you guys many a times, patterns don't change, people do. So the terms change, but the behavior remains the same. So why is the terminology always changing, but the behavior for the most part not changing? The behavior for the most part never changing is because there's nothing you can do about it. The only way you can really make sure that behavior stays consistent the long way is you're going to have to be exactly what chattel slavery was to the entire planet. You're going to have to confine them. You're going to have population control. You're going to have barriers and boundaries that they cannot cross. And you do everything under the sun to make sure that they don't ever cross it. Well, remember, freedom of speech, freedom of thought, freedom of actions, and free will that interferes with an individual's ability to do as they see fit. All of this talk that we talking on the internet, all this divestment talk, all this black men, all of that is whole logic. All this, well, what do you bring to the table? That's whoredom. These are whores talking. And the difference is the good girls, the good women, the so-called Christian women are using the exact same tactics to get the things that they want. The exact same. So they're not going to bang on them. Why? Because they are afraid that one of these 304s that they chastise or that they speak ill about is going to say, well, how did you get your husband? Well, how did you get your man? Well, I did the same thing to get my man as you getting your man. The only difference is I was smart enough. Then that's going to shut the church girl up. It's going to shut the Christian girl up. They're doing the exact same tactics. The problem isn't the men. The problem is the women. But the problem is the men. Why? The men are supposed to stop it. And I keep explaining to you. No matter what patterns I give to you, no matter what situation, no matter what scenario, women raise weaker children. That is male and female. When that young male comes of age, that young male isn't checking the evil or the wickedness of his mother. That husband doesn't reach back and check the wickedness or the evilness of the lady he decided to lay down with and have these kids. I'm telling you, that's where their men are failing. You're not reaching back. You are in abandonment mode. I'm different. My mindset says I understand how to handle this problem. Some holes in the ground need to be dug. But you guys as black men will never cross that line. You can't. The damage is already done. When those women came inside of you, came and started to take control of our civilizations back in Africa, those women had already put that poison in you. So when the new man, stepdad, or whoever comes over that tries to check your mother's wickedness, you would say, don't put your hands on my mother. And you would defend the mother. You would either chase that man off or you would eliminate that man. But the end result is mommy gets to have her way, which mommy is a whore. Now, 8,000, 9,000 plus years later, your women are demonstrating the exact same behavioral pattern. And what they're saying is, it's not that we're stupid because you're seeing the statistics, not that we're dumb because you're seeing the statistics. In the last couple of years, in the last 10 years, we had the lowest incarceration rate. In the last 30 years, the last 10 years have been the lowest incarceration rate, the highest unemployment rates. So we are doing what we're supposed to be doing to do better. The difference is our women have already turned on us. So even if we do better, it's never going to be enough because the black woman does not want to come under the black man's rule or leadership. And it is not economics. It's sexuality. The black female is a whore. And she wants to be that way. And the white man and the Asian man and the Arab man, they allow her to be that way. Yes, they incentivize her with rent. Yes, they incentivize her with economics, with housing, public housing and welfare. They incentivize her, but they allow her. They would allow her to be a whore, have multiple sex partners, polygamy and hypersexuality, even if they weren't paying for her. The goal is she wants, that's what she wants from this planet. Sexual liberation. That means more to her than anything else. The reason why it's a problem for the heterosexual male is because we understand that's a threat to our resources. That's a threat to our children. That's a threat to our lineage. That's a threat to our village. So we go for resources, economics, power, land before we go for sexual liberation. Yes, we are sexually liberated, but we're not sexually liberated over the point of resources, family, tribe, nation. No. There's a line we ain't going to cross. All right, well, that means I can't have sex with you. That means I can't have sex with you. Go on, bye-bye. But the female isn't, that's not her stopping point because she gets to have sex with the nation that eventually gets to conquer her nation. You guys need to wake up. And whatever ideas you have about your mama, oh, I love my mama. Well, my mama was there for me even when nobody else was. That was a circumstance. That was a situation of a circumstance. As you've heard before, that's a distinction without a difference. Who put you in that situation? Well, my dad was abusive to my mom. Who put you in that situation? Because in 1940, when the males were doing the same thing, the women couldn't go anywhere. They stayed there and they dealt with it. And as an end result, the children were okay. How come the Hispanic community ain't leaving? How come the Asian community ain't leaving? But you guys are following white folks. White folks ain't leaving. They're setting a stage up for you black folks because they know black folks want to be white. So by default, they'll trot out the little white woman in front of the black woman and says, well, you can have it you can have it your way too. Well, what I got to do? All you got to do is do this. Separate from your man. Talk ill about your man. Come work with us and give us the inside scoop about what's going on. And we'll give you this and we'll give you that. And the woman says, and I give you this little bit and I get to have all that. And then the white one go, yup. Black woman go back home, think about it, and like, I'm in.
We as the women have to be willing to speak out loudly about this type of situation. we get the same thing that the hyena get, ignored and uncovered. Black women get caught up, young black women get caught up like that every day. So we're not gonna play that game because I'm talking to black women. Because black women engage in this behavior. I don't care whoever else do it. Other women engaging in the behavior does not negate the fact that black women do it. So I don't care if she was white, Puerto Rican, polka dot, or Burberry colored. Black women engage in this sort of deceitful behavior from every socioeconomic status. And we're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about it because that's what's going on in our communities. We're going to talk about it because it's about time that a lioness talk about a hyena in plain sight. We're going to talk about how black women create the resentment and the hostility. We're going to talk about how black women create the resentment and the hostility. We're going to talk about how black women create the resentment and the hostility. We as the women have to be willing to speak out loudly about this type of situation. We get the same thing that the hyena get, ignored and uncovered. A man can always be forced, apparently, even against his will and or without his consent. And it is not illegal. Unethical, perhaps.
So you, the listening audience, you have to understand why the United States court system is allowing such mistreatment towards the opposite gender, and specifically the black race, black community, indigenous population, black folks, African American, Negroes. Doesn't matter the terminology, it's always us. You gotta realize everything about this country is racism, is based on racism, not capitalism. Capitalism and black folks are the capital for this country. The reason why the court systems allow it to happen is primarily because of the prison, school to prison pipeline. So that basically means they're still using black women as incubators, or as what is it when you have a bunch of children and all you are breeding. So basically just breeding farms. And what they got in these breeding farms are your projects, your plantations, your middle class. They're using black women as a conduit to give birth to black babies. And I'm telling you, in some instances, it fluctuates in ways, but in most instances, there are more black boys born than there are black females. So what happens is when that black woman has the right to be a mother, what she's doing is she's automatically, simultaneously, she is putting herself in a position to where the end result is going to be 1 to 2, or some of these kids are going to end up in prison, and the government knows that. The patterns don't change. People do. And the women are taking full advantage of it because it gives them freedom. It gives them sexual liberation, and it gives them access to WSR's protection and economics at least for 18 years. Whether she gets child support or alimony or not, she can at least get it from the government. And when she gets it from the government, remember, it's on every scale. You got middle class moms, sons end up going to jail. You got poor income, low income moms, sons who end up going to jail. But the reason primarily, in a nutshell, why she's allowed and able to get away with it is because the United States government has already done the research that single parent households, single parent moms, individuals born in these particular areas, they're most likely to end up in prison. So, and remember, slavery isn't gone. They just changed the name of it. So, you are still enslaved. It's just now you're enslaved a different way, a different way, and people are more or less okay with that. That is the primary reason why the United States government puts the laws in her favor, because she is a conduit. She's most likely going to be in a situation to where 1 to 2 or 3 of her offsprings will end up in county jail, prison, or state.
we as the women have to be willing to speak out loudly about this type of situation. We get the same thing that the hyena get, ignored and uncovered. So we got a situation where women with this feminist-driven mindset have control over not only her biological function, but the biology of men in terms of being able to collect his seed and try to make something out of it, i.e. a child, and then force fatherhood on that man with her. See, this is the danger of the covert hyena. So what is she doing? She's lowering his guard because she gotta get past this. Even for the transaction, she gotta get past this. Even in the transaction, she gotta get past the trouble and the threat to the best of her ability. Does she have to get past it the same way a potential wife would have to get past it? No. But she gotta drop his guard enough that he know there's some threat, but she's not an ultimate threat. She gotta present herself that she not gonna, cut his throat. We as the women have to be willing to speak out loudly about this type of situation. We get the same thing that the hyena get, ignored and uncovered.
Remember, I said they use the same tactics. So when she said a threat, tell me, you as the listening male audience, you don't feel like your wife, your fiance, the female that you're living with, does not pose the exact same threat.
See, she got to get past that enough. She got to do enough. Just enough. She got to smile enough. She got to be coy enough. She got to... You so crazy. Ooh, Drake, I didn't know you was this cool. Ooh. She got to put that on. She got to put on, even though this is the transaction, even though this is what's happening, all of this is taking place in the lost value system, she got to present herself as if she has more value than just her sexual value. She has to present herself as if she has more value than her SMV. Because that's what drops a man's guard.
In a nutshell, she's absolutely right. That is what drops a man's guard. But it's not like a one and done or set in stone type of guard drop. We, in general, we love women. We don't necessarily love women just for what lies between their legs. We love women because that's the other side of us. That is what's missing in us. So when we come across the female itself, we feel whole, we feel complete. The problem with that is since we operate a different way than the female, the male may feel whole, the male may feel complete, the female may not. The female may not because we, male, do not bring those interpersonal attributes to the table, because many of us males do. We're protective, we're providing, we're loving, we're caring, we're all the things that the little girl needs, but we're not all the things that the adult woman needs. And on average, you got to be careful how you talk. Sometimes you can interchange old ways with the new ways because they're interchangeable. Sometimes you cannot interchange the old ways with the new ways because they're not interchangeable. Women primarily need men to protect them from the environment that they're in. If they are in a harsh environment, by default, she's gonna submit to that man a specific way because she understands she needs that man to protect her, shield her from the harsh environment. You go out there and you hunt, get the food. You go out there and you build the house. They put shelter over her head to keep her from the rain. You go out there and you dig a hole in the ground. Once you kill the deer, you can have the meat last for a couple of days. When you're in an environment like that, the woman knows it's a harsher environment. She needs you. We are not in a harsh environment. Yes, the COVID pandemic has brought a lot of reality to women, but it's temporary. And because it's temporary and they see it as temporary, they're not quite ready to get off the bullshit. They're just really trying to snuggle up, cuddle up until the pandemic is over. Once the pandemic is over and they have a projection date of probably another 2 to 3 to 5 more years, once that is over, these females will be right back to bullshitting. The problem with that is since the men have lowered their guard, it's harder for them to determine whose attention do you accept. Remember, all the women are using the exact same tactics, all of them. The good girls and the bad girls, the Christians and the non-Christians, they're all using the exact same tactics. So how does the younger male, we got to protect the younger males. Not so much you older guys, you younger males, because you haven't been burnt yet. We got to protect you younger males. We just got to teach you how. And this is where I come into play with talking points. If you don't learn the right talking points, if you don't learn the answer to the talking points, then you're not going to be able to select correctly. And when the shit hits the fan, you're going to be caught up just like we were caught up. The older generation, the older men. Remember, poison, BVD, poison. Never trust a big butt and a smile. That girl is. You're going to end up making the same mistake because you, the listening audience, males, you have not learned the right questions to ask. And because you're so horny and you want sex, you're willing to deal with her BS because she gives you consistent access to sex. But she's not there to stay. She's there to move on. When she comes to you, what you are there for is you are there to provide her enough time for her to work on herself in order for herself to make her a better version for the next man. That's why she's here. She is not here to say, okay, let me take my chips and cash out and come what may, hell or high water. This is it. I don't want another man. I don't care how much money man. They're not here for that. They're here for that other thing. Well, I do need a man's protection and I do need a man's covering and I do need help and two of us can pay the bills and we can split the rent and we can do this and that half seas. But she's doing that so she can go to school. She's doing that so she can work on her career. She's doing that so she can have access to sex. She's doing that so she can work on those things that she thinks the higher quality male wants.
We as the women have to be willing to speak out loudly about this type of situation. We get the same thing that the hyena get, ignored and uncovered. When he no longer senses the extreme trouble because I see these women see the come up. These women see the dudes with the money and all of that and the shiny lifestyle and they want a part of that any way they can get a part of it. She knows she not worthy to come into that man's life and really add value to that man's life and thus receive the benefit from the way this man is working in his life.
Remember, I told you, they all use the same tactics to get what they want. For the most part, they all know they have to get it from a male. They all know that. The problem that we males are having is we think that it's worthy and it isn't. And then by the time we realize it isn't, we're already 13 years in with the child. The child, the male, the girl is already 13 years old and we want out. But because we males are coming from single parent homes, latchkey kids, whatever terminology you want to use, because we were victims of that same lifestyle that we may put our children in. We stick around so that it doesn't happen to them. But understand how this works. The women will split fast as shit and don't care of the repercussions it has on their child. The women aren't sticking around and saying, well, we're going to wait until the child is older. The women are splitting. So even though the research and the data is out that it causes a lot of psychological harm to our children, the female doesn't care. And I don't care if she cares or she doesn't care. I'm talking about a quantity because I don't care. If it's what's going to save my goddamn brain, if it's what's going to keep me from pulling a hole in my head and everybody else's head around me, I'm out. And then I'll double back when that time comes around and explain, yo, well, this is the reason why. So I left cause I'll come up with any excuse as long as it's the truth, but I'll come up with any excuse to convey to my child why I didn't stay. So I'm not saying that they stay because they should stay. I'm saying two different things. The men want out because the women are no good. The women have not been any good since 1940s. Every decade is just getting worse. The women have not been any good for 70 plus years. The women haven't taught their daughters how to be good wives. The women have accepted feminism. The women have accepted whoredom. The women. And the reason why I keep saying it's the man's fault, because you know this. Men, you know this. So some of you should have said, I'm going to go be a lawyer so I can offset it. Some of you should have said, I'm going to go be a politician so I can fight back. And the reason why it ain't working for us because we do not have any males in these positions. We have no males in positions of power. We don't have males in the positions of court, family court. We don't have black males in these positions. So now we got to sit here and wait for the next generation of males to come up and try to steer them in a direction of family court. Now we got to wait until the next generation of black males come up and steer them in the direction of politics. That's why I blame the men. The women aren't going to change on the fact that they're women, right and wrong. Women don't give a damn about right and wrong. Women only really care about, is it going to interfere with my ability to play? Is it going to interfere with my ability to have sex with whomever I want to have sex with? What is me making this decision really going to be? And at the end of the day, you got some women that are willing to play above all, and then you got some women that want the sex above all. Either way it goes, every system goes in her favor.
We as the women have to be willing to speak out loudly about this type of situation. We get the same thing that the hyena get, ignored and uncovered. The child itself is the bag. This is what these hyenas is talking about when they say get to the bag. And we done covered this type of stuff before. The use of the children as a stepping stone in order to get and fulfill her selfish desires. This is not about motherhood. This is not about trying to be a good mom and raise a family. She don't care about none of that.
Most guys already know that the females don't care about the kids. Look at our abortion rate. Plus, look at the way that we were raised, inner city housing, under the family, under gynocracy, under the African matriarchy. Most of us know that the women don't care about the kids. The problem is some of these males are getting women pregnant on purpose as a form of, that's hobosexual. So because you don't have a place to stay, your mom's kicked you out, whatever, you don't have nowhere to go, you're fresh out, you're going to get a female pregnant so that you can live with her long enough to get on your feet. So the men are using the children for the exact same reason. For consistency, to stay in an environment long enough for them to get together. She's going to get pregnant, hoping that the guy say, well, since you're carrying my kid, let's see if we can work it out. I don't want to be married to you, but let's see if we can work it out. And if it goes good for about 5 years or so, I'll marry you. If anything other than that, no, we're just going to try to live together and see what we can do. The male would do the same thing for the female. Since you got my baby, I'm gonna try to stay and try to stick around and hope that we can raise this baby better than our parents raised us. But you're doing the same thing.
I gotta talk to the women, and then I'm gonna talk to the brothers for a little minute. The reason why I'm diving again on what would appear to be a one and done type of topic, the reason why I'm going into it is because it is beyond and past time that women like myself, women like the women in the chat room, women like the women who listen to and agree with the things that I'm talking about on my channel who agree with having accountability for what we do and taking responsibility for our actions as adult women. We have to be willing to point this out for what it is and snatch the cover back. We don't have to be willing to snatch the wigs off of these heifers. We as the women have to be willing to speak out loudly about this type of situation because our brothers need to be protected from women like this. Not truly understanding the threat level of these hyenas and the length that they will go in order to enact that threat. There are even fewer red pill women who are willing to not only see the threat, but expose the threat for what it is. Call it out on its face without sugarcoating it, without trying to make it look better than it is, without trying to take the sting out of it or any of that. This is why I talk the way that I talk, because I'm not trying to take the sting out of it. I'm trying to put the sting in. We're not taking the sting out. We're putting it in. And as long as good women or the so-called good women keep their mouth shut, we're complicit in this type of behavior. And when we're complicit with this type of behavior, we get the same thing that the hyena get, ignored and uncovered.
They get the same treatment that the 304, the Jezebel, the Scarlet, the hyena gets, because they are all using the same exact tactics. And I said it to you before, it's just like when Moses took the Egyptian Hebrew slaves out of Egypt and into the wilderness. They were supposed to go into the promised land, but they were so screwed up in their head that they ended up having to stay in the wilderness for an additional 40 years in order for a certain group to die off and leave that whatever was in their head, their ways, their cultural ways that they adopted out of Egypt. They had to die them off, kill them off until the new batch comes up with different ways. And then they were able to walk into or go into the promised land. I'm explaining to you guys, everything is secular. We've been here before. This is not brand new to us as a race. This is not brand new to us as a population or group of people. The reason why we are repeating things over and over and over and over and over a Groundhog's Day is because the men have not yet risen up to the challenge to do what they are supposed to do. And now men are still choosing abandonment, but there are men who are pushing back. You can't help everything. It's not going to be an absolute. There's never going to be an absolute all. That is not the way human nature works. Some of these boys, males, are taking advantage of these women that are broken specifically for sex. So I am saying I'll leave you alone because you pose that much of a threat to me. I don't want to have sex with you at all. Now here goes the nasty woman or the condescending woman or the woman who doesn't understand, or she's just bitter and she's trying to prove a point. I'm a middle-aged male. I'm at the point where you disgust me so much I will leave you alone. That's where we're at. You guys, you males, you guys aren't really looking at the world as it is. You're looking at these women and you want access to sex. You are the weaker class. And because you want access to sex, you're less likely to do what you are supposed to do in order to get our women in order. Our women are the direct result of all of our nation going into slavery. Our women refuse. They refuse to do the right thing. You have 9,000 plus years of information, texts, of patterns, of previous lived civilizations. Why did this civilization fall? What was this civilization doing? Well, what were the positive attributes about this civilization? What were the negative? Well, what was the pros? What were the cons? You got 9,000 years. And the women are still doing the exact same thing. They want sexual liberation above all. I'm on these internet platforms, and these women are all over these platforms revealing their body parts. That is what they want. Some women are getting paid for it. Some women are not getting paid for it. But that is what they want. Sexual liberation. sexual gratification, sexual affirmation. That is what they want. It is a threat to us because she would rather be some other man's whore than rather be my wife. Well, why do I gotta be your wife? He's going to put a house over my head. He's going to put food on my table. He's going to give me a car to drive. He's going to do this, and he ain't asking to be my husband. He ain't asking me to be there every time. I can come and go as I please. Why I got to be your wife and sit there, cook and clean and raise some nappy-headed children? That's what your women are saying. That's what your moms are saying. That's what your aunts are saying. That's what they're saying. And it's like, for some reason, you males just can't see it. And I don't care if you can't see it. This message, this public service announcement, this PSA is for the men who understand what I'm saying with the least amount of words. You males are going to have to get papered up. You males are going to have to get LinkedIn. You males are going to have to put sex off for a while and focus on your economics, focus on your power, focus on connecting with the right men who can make things happen, who can provide jobs, who can give jobs, who can provide industry, who can build communities, who can build neighborhoods, who can change laws. You can't worry about sex. Sex is your greatest weakness. Sex is her greatest strength. And that's the reason why she wants it. You're asking her to give up her power. That's stupid. That's the same conversation that we're having with WSR, asking WSR to give up their power. And you see how futile this is becoming. Your best bet is to leave it alone. Focus on those. Not all women feel the same. So understand when I make these statements, they're broad and in general, but it's not a one size fits all. It's just a generalization. About 95% of the women are the same, and they're 304s. That leaves you with 5% that are willing to do it right. Out of that 5%, it really only gives you about 4% that's going to give you some fight back. So basically that means that 4% still has a feminist mindset. It's just that they really do want to do it right. So they're willing to learn. But in the process of trying to learn, because they are feminists, they're gonna give you, it's gonna be an uncomfortable life. No, it may not be like the 95%. So you do get to be married, but she's gonna spend the bulk of her marriage trying to emasculate you, make fun of you, poke fun of you, try to ridicule you, try to put you in some manner to where you're not strong or you don't appear strong. That's what they do. But she'll stay married to you though. She won't go nowhere. But she will spend the duration of the marriage trying to emasculate you, ridicule you, poke fun of you, make you seem like you're not that smart. Then you have the 1%. The 1% doesn't necessarily go to church. It's a mindset. That 1% mindset are really traditional. They're really soft. They're really gentle. They go to work. They work and they bring that money home to you, the male, and they pretty much primarily allow you to make the decisions. Now, if you're fucking up, she's going to punish you too, because she's going to realize you're not making good decisions. So I need to be careful how I give you the money. But her intent is to give you the money because she believes that you are a good decision maker. That's the 1%. Those are hard to come by. Those are really, really, really hard to come by because they all use the same tactics. So when I make these statements, I'm telling you, not on all, just 95%. Then out of that 95%, you have 4%. Out of the remaining 5%, you have 4% that are going to stay married. They're going to get married. They're going to stay married. But she's the type of female that's going to spend a large amount of time emasculating you so that your power stays in check. And ultimately, she's the one in charge. You're the one in charge off of face value, but she's the one that's really pulling the strings because she's constantly trying to emasculate you, poke fun of you, make fun of you, ridicule you, make it seem like you're not smart, you're not smart, you're not strong. But she's not going nowhere. She's just going to be she's just going to be a handful for the marriage. And nothing is going to be easy. You're going to argue with her all the goddamn time because she's always trying to emasculate you because she's a feminist. Then you got that 1%, as I've already explained. I'm just reiterating it. You got that 1%. Now, she's more traditional. She's more the old school. She's going to go to work. She's going to make sure that you have the check. Hey, I got paid today. And you're like, okay. And then that check is going to be there, and she's not going to make a move until she runs it by you. She's not going to be out here shopping just because she makes the money. She's different. Those are hard to come by. Remember, I said the 1%. Warrior class, Zoo, rise up. Warrior class, Zoo, speak up. Warrior class, zoo, show up. Warrior class, zoo, smoke 'em out. Peace and black love.
Fair Use Act disclaimer. This site is for educational purposes only. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, and research.